A very successful night for Chelsea. They're through to the knockout stage of the Champions League. There's confirmation. Chelsea with 10 points. And Qarabag down the bottom of the group there. Roma play Atletico Madrid tonight. If Atletico Madrid get any kind of result against Roma, Chelsea will be primed to possibly win Group C. Elsewhere, there's one other early kick-off this afternoon. That was CSKA Moscow against Benfica. Moscow running out 2-0 winners, which still means that Manchester United have a little bit to do this evening. We'll be watching that game here on BT Sport 2. And 2-goal victory by Moscow. Let's have a look at those 2 goals. Shenikov got the first one. Very colourful array of kits out there in Moscow this evening, and probably warming up a chilly night in Moscow. Shenikov with that goal, and then the clinching goal came in the second half. Good work down the right-hand side, and it was eventually given as a Jardel own goal. But perhaps the big story in this particular game is that Akinfeev, the Moscow goalkeeper, after 11 years and 43 games, has finally managed a clean sheet in the Champions League. That deserves a word.
Well done.
That's 2 words.
I wouldn't have wanted to wait that long, I'll tell you that. 11 years for a clean sheet as a keeper. You must have...
Extraordinary stuff. Let's head to Baku for some reaction. Willian and Hazard are with Andy May.
Well done. Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
Actually, Frank, it's quite a serious point, isn't it, that with the amount of games compared with last season, they do need to rotate a bit, which was kind of the problem where you were thinking, have they got a big enough squad?
Yeah, I think when everyone's fit, they do have. We're talking about critical players. Hazard and Kante, I think, are the critical ones out of the squad. But yes, great to see Willian. That's great for confidence, great to show the depth of the squad. Pedro as well was lively, so you're going to need that in the course of a long season.
And the other bonus for Chelsea, which obviously won't necessarily please you that much, is that going into that Liverpool game, they've had a nice, easy, cruising performance, despite the travel, though, which is tiring.
Yeah, I'm sure Jurgen Klopp and the Liverpool players are hoping the travel has an effect and not as fresh as normal, but I think that all goes out the window once it kicks off. It's a very tough game for Liverpool. It's a 50-50 game in my opinion, and it's all set up to be a cracker.
Chelsea look strong, like many of the teams in the Champions League for England this season.
Yeah, they did, and they were very professional in what they'd done. They knew what they had to go out there and do. They were very efficient, and they coasted through this game. And what we've been saying here is perfectly right. They managed to get players off the pitch, important players who are going to have an effect in the game, hopefully on the weekend.
Life was made a lot easier for them by a certain decision that we think it was the right decision. But this is it, the penalty that changed everything, and the red card.
Yeah, great ball, great run. But in terms of the penalty, yes, it's whether we say it's soft or not, I think there is a grab. The defender knows he's caught wrong side. It does disrupt Willian. I think he gets his feet caught up in the end by being slightly grabbed. Best angle probably to see it here, where he grabs his arm, and that's a penalty.
Obviously, the double jeopardy doesn't occur because obviously he was deliberately trying to foul him.
Yeah, it's a perfect goal scoring opportunity, and the referee is right in front of it. You know, the defenders tried to be clever, get a slight tug in there, but it hasn't worked.
I think we're actually more convinced than Willian looking at that interview.
Yeah, exactly.
He looked a bit subdued there after such a good performance. He just got back in the team, you'd think he'd be happy about it.
He must have been happy with the second goal. That was a beautiful bit of football, wasn't it, between him and particularly him and Hazard.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the team play and the interactions of the front three, and I think the way they play, and I think when you don't play an out-and-out striker, you need the movement of the midfield. It needs to be very fluid.
There's no movement at all on that clip.
I know, that's what I'm trying to keep.
I know exactly what you're trying to do.
But I think the fluid movement gives defenders a problem. It started wide. I loved it. You know, people talk sometimes about one-touch stuff.
It is the movement, Frank.
Here we go. Thank goodness for that. But in terms of the one-touch stuff, but I love two-touch play. Sometimes that 1-2, just help you get another second on the ball to make the decision, and then the pass is so crisp, and you know they're all on the same wavelength. As they said, they're very confident. That's great play from the Chelsea players.
Yeah, when you take that first touch, and then for your second one, it drags the defender to you. That's the thing. And when you drag a defender out towards you, there's space behind him, as you see here. The defender's eliminated totally from that game there, from the play. Great finish.
It certainly was. Can I make sure there's no confusion that Paul Pogba is not playing for Chelsea at all at this stage? Half-time came. We knew that it was going to be easy for Chelsea after that. And then Fabregas got on the goal thing as well, didn't he? From another penalty it's whether it was inside the box.
Yeah, I think the first initial foul was outside the box, but he does keep hold of the shirt going into it. I think that's the reason why the referee gives it. But it was very easy for Chelsea at this point. The game's over. It's almost like a training match at this stage. And it was all about Conte getting players off the pitch and resting them for the big one at Anfield. But Fabregas done well keeping his composure for both penalties, because that's not easy.
Yeah, well, we saw it last night, didn't we? You don't see it that often. All of a sudden we've seen 2 in 2 days, but
it's all about the mind games at that point.
Yeah. So in that game last night, he switched sides, didn't he? But Fabregas went for the same one. Has that happened to you before, or any of you?
I had 3.
3 times that's happened to you?
Against West Ham, yeah.
That's an easy place to do it as well. West Ham's an easy place to do it for Frank as well.
Yeah, 3.
Dispatched all 3.
Did you?
I knew that's why I asked. I just wanted to give you.
That was under pressure. That's for a 3-0. My one was to make it 1-0.
Willian, one of the stars of the show, cracking goal, the 4th one.
Yeah, I mean, I really love watching him play. I think he's a fantastic. Hasn't had many minutes this year.
Yeah.
He's been coming on as a bit part player.
Sharp,
he's sharp, his movement, and when he gets you in middle of goal. A couple of seasons ago, he was doing this on a regular basis, and I think he's got a thunderous shot, especially with the right foot, and here gives the keeper no chance at all. But when he's middle of goal, he can go either way, and when you're that sharp and that quick, you eliminate defenders.
I think if there's any question that's arisen from tonight for Chelsea, it's whether, because that was what we saw a lot last season, Willian and Hazard around the front man, it was Costa last year, been Morata now, is whether going to Liverpool, because I feel like with Hazard and Willian, they could hurt Liverpool going forward, but does he go more security and bring Bakayoko back in, or does he maybe go with Willian again?
Or do you attack Liverpool's weakness, which is the defence, I suppose?
Yeah, he's Italian, so the mindset might be to protect and see what we can get.
Slightly different. We talked before the game about how good Hazard is, and he's got a real consistency to his game at the moment, Stephen.
Yeah, he's got everything. He can score goals, he creates goals, he's got vision, speed, he's direct. But his awareness for that little back heel tonight was sensational. There's a bit of world class in him just right there.
Yeah, delightful. We need to actually work out what exactly world class means, don't we? We're talking about this during the match itself amongst ourselves. You know, is world class like within the best 5 in your position in the world, or does it mean you're actually getting a world team? Someone needs to define it so we know what it is.
We've all got our own opinions, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me, it's if you're affecting games at this level, Champions League and international level, of course at home as well, but I think when you're affecting games regularly at this level and over a period of time, it can't be for a small period of time. The best do it over a period, and I think we can say at the moment that Hazard is certainly in that bracket for me.
Agreed?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think he's definitely world class. I think he's the reason that Chelsea will win in league. I think he's the reason if they're going to go any deeper in this competition, he's going to have to play a huge role and do what he's been doing tonight.
Well, we've got 3 world class players in their time here to discuss it. So.
I think you'd also know when you play against it how difficult it is to compete against, and he's a tough competitor.
Yeah. World class? Do you say world class pundits?
I said world class players.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You've still got time.
Start that debate.
You are a world class.
I just thought you said
pundit.
That. I was going to agree, obviously, but
yeah. Fabregas is interesting in his position, isn't he? I think it helps him probably with having Kante in there, don't you think?
Well, it would do.
Anyone, wouldn't it?
Certainly would do. Listen, I think Cesc Fabregas, we all know when Cesc can control a game, he needs to be on the ball because he's got a pass that not everybody sees. The passes he plays, the chip balls through the middle, his continuity of keeping the play moving well. And I think with Kante, it takes away the extra bit of defensive responsibility, allows him just to worry more about getting on the ball, and then he makes Chelsea tick from midfield.
The thing is, this weekend they're going to play against Liverpool. They won't give him the time he had today. The time he had today to get his head up, take a touch, sometimes take another touch and play. You won't get that at Liverpool, and that's the difference.
And you've got to remember, they were playing against 10 men for much of the game, and an inferior team.
Exactly. But given time, he's as good as anyone to put in the ball on a sixpence for someone to get an opportunity at goal.
Are Chelsea a viable threat in this competition? Can they actually go all the way and win it, do you think?
They wouldn't be my pick,
no.
But they are capable. They've got world-class players. Big enough squad, but they need to keep important players fit, and that's the key for Chelsea.
Begs for the question, who would be your pick?
I fancy PSG this year.
They are favourites.
Yeah, I just think, with the arrival of Neymar and Mbappe, I think you'd have to be a good side to beat them this year. Madrid are coming a little bit out of form.
Chelsea it's not impossible. They've done it before, haven't they? I mean, against all odds in many ways when they.
It's not impossible. They certainly have the ability on their day to beat anyone. But we'd probably say about all English clubs. But I think on form now, looking at it, PSG, Manchester City are quite rightly favourites. But everything can change in 3 months. Come February, injuries, form can all change. But as it stands, I'm with you on PSG.
Yeah, it's knockout football as well. You never know, do you? It's always hard. Which is why, until last season, no one had ever retained the trophy until Real Madrid did it.
Yeah, I agree with the guys. PSG are the standout team, but I'm excited for the English teams. I think they've got that something at the moment that I feel other teams will fear. In every one of the English teams, there's some. In the Tottenham team, you've got Kane and Ali, Hazard, and Morata in the Chelsea team. There's elements of each of the English teams that possess.
City probably the strongest.
Something, exactly. City,
and a big squad to boot. Do you think Chelsea have got a sufficient squad to cope on competing on all these different fronts at the moment, or do they need to add in January?
I think they need to add. I think,
where? Which positions? Just the squad? Or?
Well, if you look. You're looking at Morata there as and that's right. Batshuayi's come in and had moments where he scored,
but he doesn't trust it, does he?
He's seemingly not. Yeah. And then you have to play Hazard and change a lot of things. So I think maybe as a backup striker, you do. I think they're going to have to maybe strengthen the midfield at some point, but that might be next year. But I think you have to keep strengthening because everybody else is. Manchester City or Manchester United are. So to stay in the game, you'll have to keep strengthening. Yeah,
funny, you weren't here last night. We were talking about how the English teams have really bridged the gap, it seems, in Europe this season, quite emphatically. A year ago, we were saying we're still quite a way off. Do you see that at the moment, or is this...
I can certainly see improvements, but it's still early days, I think. I think a lot of them got friendly groups, if you like, and I think as you go on, it gets a lot more difficult. I agree with Frank. They all need to strengthen a little bit, I think, to challenge it at the later stages.
Totally agree, and I think that the prime example will be Real Madrid. The result against Spurs, great result for Spurs, not taking anything away from them, but that comes in a knockout phase, that fixture. I see a totally different Real Madrid team turn up, and that's the difference.
That is you've got to beat the big teams at some point in this competition in the knockout stages, but it really does look like all 5 English teams will be there to fight. Rio, Frank, Stephen, thanks very much. For now, we have another game to do very shortly, but Chelsea are through to the Champions League knockout stage as Qarabag are recycled. We'll be back very shortly with Manchester United.